I now understand that we have to join Adesua Osage in South Africa. The 2025 G20 Johannesburg Summit is the upcoming 20th meeting of the Group of 20, a meeting of heads of state and government scheduled for 22 to 23rd November 2025. It will be the first G20 summit held in Johannesburg, South Africa, and on the African continent. Joining us from Johannesburg to bring us updates on what to expect from the G20 summit is Arise correspondent Adesua Giwa Osage. Good morning, Adesua.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Vimbai, and good morning, Ayo. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Sanbodani.
Anyway, she studied in Johannesburg, so she's trying to speak South African Zulu language to you. But very quickly, before now, we were talking about this spat between President Ramaphosa and the White House. Now, President Trump says no official of the United States will show up at that G20 meeting. President Ramaphosa says it's their loss. If they don't come, well, it's their problem. But I think it's important that you have the United States at the table, considering the important issues being discussed, climate change, energy, debt sustainability, and the U.S., even having connections with over 600 companies in the United States alone. So you see politics over white farmers and asylum dictating. But what is the mood, the general mood, as world leaders prepare to start the meeting, 22nd to 23rd?
Well, to be honest, the general mood here is excitement. It's the first G20 in Africa. It's very significant, particularly because President Cyril Ramaphosa is trying to bring Africa to the global stage, and he sees himself as a representative not just of Africa, but of the global south, which is why he invited President Tinubu and other African leaders here. Now, of course, America is not attending, and South Africa has known that for a very long time, and the Minister of International Relations said, we'll mark them absent and we'll move on. Of course, America is important, but of course, they are not the most important country in terms of everything that's going on around the world. America has tried to use their absence as some sort of coercion and distraction when it comes to the G20. Now, America is not attending, and they have said they're not sending a delegation. However, there are other countries not attending. The president of China, Russia, Argentina, and Mexico are not expected, but they have sent delegations. And like South Africa says, there has been no G20 in history where there's 100% attendance by every head of state. And so some countries are sending their delegations, but people are moving forward. Just yesterday, the EU and South Africa signed a deal on minerals. The French President Emmanuel Macron is expected to honor French people who fought for the anti-apartheid movement in the Freedom Park later this afternoon. South Africa has released the inequity report that they authored under the G20. So people are still excited and people are still moving forward. And from what I'm hearing from the Sherpas is that they have agreed on the declaration. Now, President Trump says that South Africa should not make any declaration, any G20 leaders declaration. But what we're hearing from some of the delegates here is that the language of that declaration has now been decided upon. So whether or not they're going to actually make that declaration tomorrow or the day after is yet to be seen. But everyone is excited. Truly, America is not here, and I think Ramaphosa is right when he says it's their loss.
Well, thank you very much, Adesu. Approximately 42 countries are said to be expected at the G20 summit. But I believe some reactions based on yesterday's spat, let me say, between America and South Africa. One economist from the University of Johannesburg, Dr. Frederick Queston, is actually of the opinion that it might work positively in such a way that there will be focus. The summits will be focused, and agendas, there will not be a hijacking of agendas, and then they can actually focus on the real issues as well as some of the highlights or some of the important points, particularly from an African perspective. Can you share with us? I know you talked about some of the things that might be happening at the summit, but what are some of the priority areas that are up for conversation at this summit?
Okay, now, so this summit theme is solidarity, equality, and sustainability. When we're talking about the themes of solidarity, is that the idea that the whole world moves forward. The main themes here is the just energy transition, especially when it comes to Africa. Africa is energy poor. And when it comes to equality, South Africa considers inequality, particularly wealth inequality, as very incredibly important. Now, they authored a report led by Nobel laureate here under the G20, which said that the world is more unequal now than it has been in the past. In the 21st century, since 2000 to 2004, the top 1% of the world has acquired 41% of the wealth created. They have been able to increase their wealth by millions, whereas the bottom 50% of the world has only increased their wealth by about $500. So when we're talking about inequality, that's something that's very important. The just energy transition, loan forgiveness, bringing the global south forward, and of course sustainability. When we're thinking about climate change, of course it affects countries like South Africa, where they've had droughts and water shortages, and countries like Nigeria, of course, where we have the Sahel spreading and terror. Climate change is also a very important topic here. And so these are some of the themes that the countries are coming around to discuss. Also, of course, like minerals and rights to minerals by African countries and countries from the global south when dealing with countries like China and when dealing with the EU. So these are some of the themes and some of the agendas that we'll be seeing across the next 2 days.
All right, thank you so much for that, Adesso. I've got two questions for you, if you can just maybe bring them all together. The first being that as much as the United States government is not represented, I understand there's a massive delegation of American businesses and a lot of interest from American private sector. I see you're standing in front of the banner for the B20. There's also been a social summit. What are the side events happening apart from the G20? And then the second leg of the question is that, yes, we understand President Tinubu obviously could not attend. Is there still a Nigerian delegation on the ground? And there were talks about South Africa carrying us along so that Nigeria could become G21, become a part of this community. Do you think those talks will move forward even though the president was unable to attend? Very briefly, please.
Very briefly. So yesterday I actually was able to attend one of the closing events for the B20. Now, yes, businesses are here. A lot of American businesses are here, particularly in tech, the banking sector. Again, they can't ignore what's going on. The G20 represents 80 to 85% of the world's GDP. And so they are present in South Africa, and they're working with South African and South African countries, regardless of Trump's position. America does feel it's the center of the universe, but sometimes businesses understand that the world is shifting and changing. So we do have a lot of B20 events. And when you speak about Nigerian delegation and other side events, there's actually an event for Nigerian solid minerals that's going to be going on Saturday. So there are quite a few events tomorrow, some side events here. Nigerian Ministry of Solid Minerals, I believe, is here. I believe the Minister of Finance should be here, and one or two governors. So although the president isn't here, there is still a bit of a Nigerian delegation. Now, whether or not we're becoming G21, I'm not entirely sure about. I think there are quite a few things that are happening on the sidelines here. One of the main things, obviously, is the crises in the world with Sudan, with Gaza, and with Ukraine. Particularly, Ukraine is high on the mind of the European delegation here. So I'm not sure that would be a main focus, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, thank you so very much, Adesso Agiwa Osage.